Hi guys, so it's been a little while since I decided to bring you something sort of on the topic of nursing. It has actually been months and months and months and maybe getting on towards a year since I've actually talked about anything to do with nursing here on my channel. But these videos seem to go down extremely well with you all. You all seem to learn a hell of a lot, and the people who watch this, I guess that they get a lot from this kind of video and kind of learn some tips and tricks and that sort of things to help them along the way of their nursing career. So today I thought I would do another nursing video for you all, but unlike the last two videos, it's not a Q&A. This time I'm going to be doing the A to Z of qualifying as a registered nurse. Obviously it's like September, October time when you all start qualifying, when you start getting those pins from the NMC and you are let loose in the world of nursing and independent to make your own decisions and following anybody around and not a student anymore, and it's quite a scary time for us as like newbie nurses. But I just wanted to create something that's a little bit helpful for you all, something that you can keep coming back to, sort of like if you're struggling with like your first few weeks at work, on the wards, or wherever you've chosen to like have your career and start it out and things like that. I just want something that you can all come back to and learn something and kind of like refresh your memories on what you kind of need to know, what's really important to like learn beforehand, what you might need to start with. So I just thought I'd put this little help, like A to Z sort of helping video together for you all, and I really hope this kind of helps some of you. So yeah, let's get started. So the first pointer that I would like to make is that I would seriously suggest you go and arrange a visit for your new job. I said this as a student, I think it's super important that when you're starting out a career in a certain place, you go and arrange to see it, go and meet the people you're going to be working with, go and have a bit of a wander around sort of like the ward, kind of get a bit of a feel for what to expect. Obviously it's going to be completely different and it probably is going to be extremely overwhelming going and visiting somewhere. But honestly, I did this for both of my jobs and I cannot tell you enough how much better it made me feel going in on the day of my first shift, knowing where I needed to be, knowing what time I needed to be there, knowing who like the faces were who I'd sort of see, knowing like kind of a bit of the whereabouts of the ward and what I was going to find and things like that. I think when you qualify and first go onto a ward, it's definitely more scary than like a second job or a third job or whatever, because I feel like you kind of have a bit of a feel for what to expect if you've already done it once before. But if you're qualifying for the first time, you kind of want to know where you need to be on the day, where you're going to get changed and things like that. So that's definitely point number one. Point number two for qualifying is definitely just to believe in yourself. Honestly, it's terrifying qualifying as a nurse, but honestly, you've got this far, you've got through all the millions of placements that are all really scary, and let's be honest, being a student, it is really daunting because you know you're going to go into that placement, you're going to meet people, you're going to be new, you're going to be classed as the student, you know, we all got it, we all got called the student, no one ever knew our name. And it is scary, but you actually managed to get through that and you've qualified. Like honestly, you should be so proud of yourself. It's not an easy degree, it's not an easy job, and you got to this point and you just need to bear that in mind. Honestly, you've done amazing so far, so this is going to be a breeze. Next is quite a big tip really, and it's to be creating your own way of working. Honestly, I cannot express enough how you will not learn anything until you qualify. This right now, when you qualify, is going to be like completely different to everything that you ever learned throughout uni. They teach you things at university that you never will see in the real world of work. Like learn so much, you'll learn like new ways to like do things, you'll learn your own way of working, you'll create your own time management strategies. Honestly, you will learn more now than you ever learned throughout the whole 3 years of training. I've learnt more in my 2 years of being qualified now than I ever learned throughout those 3 years, and that's because you're let loose to do your own thing, sort of like obviously learn your limitations and know when you need to ask people like questions and things like that. That's so important, never to just run off and think that you know everything, because honestly you really don't. I cannot emphasize enough how this is completely new, it's completely different to being a student, and you really are let loose just to do your own thing, and it's quite daunting. But honestly, just be prepared to learn things now. You need to learn your drugs, you need to learn like your own time management strategies, you need to learn how to speak to relatives, how to speak to patients, how to break bad news, how to hold all your emotions in all at once, because you don't have anyone to fall back on at the end of the day. They're your patients, they're your responsibility. You've got to learn honestly everything, and it's stuff that they never teach you at uni, so just be prepared for that as well. Next tip is just don't be afraid. I know it's absolutely terrifying qualifying and thinking that you've got all this responsibility now, but like I said before, you have got this far and the scariest stuff's done. You've done your exams, you've been a student, you've walked into environments that you knew no one was really going to take you in and take you seriously. You're just a student, you're not there for long, so... And it's a horrible, horrible feeling knowing that that's how people feel. But honestly, don't be frightened. You've done it, you've done the worst, and now you just need to settle in and just enjoy it. The next tip is to ensure that on your first day of qualifying and going into your new job, you have the right equipment with you, because you don't want to go in there and be asking people to borrow this, that, and the other. You want to have it all sort of accessible in your pockets, in your bag, whatever. So I would say definitely take a pen. I always find it very handy to have a black pen, at least 2 sometimes, just in case, because pens literally like almost have legs, they disappear. People steal your pens, they're like gold dust. Once someone has got a pen, you'll never see it again, honestly. So I'd say a couple of black pens, a red pen, because I always find this handy just to like write on stuff to ensure that like anything important stands out to me, or any jobs that are like crucial that need doing first stand out to me. I always find a highlighter really, really handy as well, because again, you can highlight what is absolutely necessary that needs to be done, and something that you can't hand over to anybody else. It has to be done on your shift. A stopwatch, like a nursing fob watch, I definitely think is important, because obviously when you're doing like the respiratory rate and things, you need that on you, particularly on the wards. Maybe not so much when you're on the like intensive care like myself now, because we do things very differently on there. I won't go into that, as something for a whole other video. I would say a little torch, little pen torch, because obviously pupils and things, you have to check them if you've got like your neuro patients and things. They're handy to have. Some black comfy shoes that will get you through the day. Obviously make them as comfortable as possible, because honestly they are long, long, long days on the wards and your feet will be killing, especially if you've not done a placement for some time and suddenly you're going into your job because you've had weeks off because of qualifying. You will get a little bit of a shock when you go back on your first day and your feet are aching. So get yourself a really good pair of comfy black shoes. I'll try and link mine below. Mine are actually pushing on to 5 years old now, and they're looking a bit worse for wear, but they are the most comfortable shoes I own / ugliest shoes I own. But honestly, they are just the best things ever, and it's worth spending a bit of money on them as well. I'll try and link mine below if I can find them. Also, I would recommend getting yourself a hand cream and keeping that in your pocket, because honestly, the amount of times that you have to wash your hands throughout the day, your hands will be so dry and sore. So it's definitely worth getting yourself a little hand cream. I usually use just whatever I've got at the time, but at the moment I'm actually using the Sugar Crush by Soap & Glory, which smells amazing. So I'll link that one below. And last but not least, which is a bit random and not really a necessity, but I always find it like saves me when I'm at work. Always keep a lip balm in your pocket, just something really plain, something not coloured, just something that you can quickly bung on your break. Because honestly, the air conditioning on wards, on the intensive care units, in theatres, the air is just so dry and it just dries all your skin out, including your hands and your lips in particular. If I haven't put any lip balm on through the day, my lips will be sore for probably about 3 or 4 days afterwards, because the air is just so dry, it's horrible. So I definitely recommend just getting like a Vaseline or a Nivea lip balm and just keeping it in your pocket. The next tip is first impressions. Now, first impressions are absolutely key to working somewhere. Honestly, if you go in there all guns blazing, this really loud mouth, really out there person, people are probably going to be like, oh geez, like they're going to have their backs up a little bit. So I'd just say, remember that first impressions are everything. So don't be late, for example. Don't be loud and boisterous. Don't disagree with people. Do as you're told. Kind of just like fit into the background a little bit to start with. Sort of just assess your colleagues and like what the ethics are of the place and what the etiquette is and how people go on. And then gradually as time goes on, you'll kind of just fit into it in your own way. Just don't go in there being like a know-it-all and things like that, because people won't like that. And at the end of the day, you want to get on with your colleagues. You're going to be spending a lot of time with them each week and each day, so you want to be on the right side of people. You don't want people to think that you're going to be this horrible person to work with and they don't want you in their team. So yeah, just remember that as well. And that leads me on to my next one, which is get to know your colleagues. It's important to like join in with like social things and social activities. Go on your Christmas parties, go on your works night out, get involved just with like general things, with conversation even. Just get to know people, get to know people's lives. Just, it's important when you're sitting in the staff room to not just sit there and talk about what happened on the unit or what happened on the ward, training days and stuff. Don't just go on about things like that. Get to know like what people are doing in their spare time, what people's holidays were like, and then gradually you'll make friends and it'll make work a lot easier and also a lot more fun, and you'll enjoy your colleagues and people that you're around, and it'll be a positive thing to know, like when you look around you, that you're with so and so, so and so and so and so, and you can know that you can have a bit of a normal conversation throughout the day just to make that shift a little bit easier. Help out your colleagues, that is super important as well. Don't be one of these selfish nurses who doesn't help anybody and expects everyone to come and help at the same time. I have worked with people in the past who have expected all the help in the world from you and all the help in the world from like your healthcare assistants and things like that, yet have not been willing to leave bed spaces or their bay of patients and help other people. You do not want to be a person like that. People will not want to work with you, and I just think it's really important to just be a team player. Honestly, if you help people, they'll help you, and it's a vice versa sort of thing. Do not be that person who just doesn't help anybody yet expects people to help them. I cannot emphasize that enough. Honestly, don't go in there expecting that you won't have to help people, because honestly you will. The next one is something which will be completely new to all you new qualified nurses out there, and that is IV drugs. So obviously as a student you get like the opportunity to like make them up and help your mentor and things, like sort of like getting them all arranged on the side ready for times, and what you need to mix them with, and constitutions, and sort of like work out drug calculations and things. But now you're going to be that person who does that, and it's like quite overwhelming to start with. So if you guys are working in a place where you get like an IV package where you have to go through it and get so many things signed off before you're allowed to do it yourself, I would suggest to get that done as soon as you possibly can, because honestly it holds you back so much, and you don't want to kind of be keeping going to your colleagues and being like, please can you do my IV Tazocin for me because I can't do it yet, and you're like 6 months down the line. People will be like, oh well, why has she not managed to do that yet? So I highly recommend that you get your IV packages done as soon as possible. They should be a priority. And also just learn about the IV drugs you're using, learn what they need to be mixed with, learn how long they run over, and gradually it'll just be like a little compartment of your brain will just be accustomed to knowing this about IV drugs. I've got this bit in my brain now, and I think it's more ITU related because we didn't really do many of them on the wards. But on ITU, like we use IVs every day, all day, and honestly we have syringes running out all the time. So I've got this little compartment in my brain now that's like saved for intravenous drugs, honestly. So it's just important to kind of like maybe take a little notebook with you, write down what you're using, write down what it mixes with, and write down what the usual time is for it to run over. And gradually you'll just kind of learn. It's like revision. You'll just kind of like know in the end. So definitely get that done ASAP. Another important pointer is just to remember that you are still a junior member of staff. You can, for that reason, go to your more senior colleagues and ask for help. It's really important to know what your limitations are, to be able to like kind of know around you who you can go to, who you can depend on, and who sort of like reassures you, knowing that they're there. It's just important just to like be aware of your limitations and what you can and can't do. And if you don't know something, just ask, honestly. No question is a silly question. At the end of the day, once you've asked the question, you've got the answer, you know what the answer is. So once you've asked it once, that's fine. As long as you don't repeatedly keep doing it over and over again, then you'll be absolutely fine. But yeah, just remember that you won't know everything. You're brand new. This might be a completely new setup for you. You might never have worked in this environment before. So it's just go easy on yourself, seriously. You cannot expect to know everything within like a week. It takes time, honestly, and especially in intensive care. I don't know anywhere near as much as I should. I've only been there like, I think it's like 13, 14 months now, but I'm just starting to get like to know things better. It takes time, honestly. You'll never know everything. The next thing is knowledge. So basically learn about your environment, learn about your ward, learn about the diseases and the conditions you'll come up with, learn about procedures, learn about infections, learn about your drugs. It's really important to get a really good knowledge base for what you're going to be sort of like dealing with each and every day. Say for example, you're working on a respiratory medical ward. You're going to need to know about your asthma, your COPD, your respiratory distress, all this kind of stuff. You're going to need to know like vital observations and things and kind of what's normal for them, because I know we put parameters in sometimes for if people have got respiratory problems. So it's kind of important to know like what conditions you're going to be coming up against very regularly, what drugs people are going to be on, so like your salbutamol, your nebulizers, your inhalers, your steroids. This is all an example for respiratory, by the way, so I'm just meaning if you're working on a respiratory ward, learn everything about it, learn about the drugs, learn about the treatments, learn about the conditions. If it's cardiac, exactly the same. Basically, build up a knowledge base so that when you're talking to your patients, you're talking to your relatives, you're talking to your colleagues, you kind of know what you're talking about and you don't sound like you're just talking about a load of rubbish that doesn't mean anything. And plus, it feels better for yourself to actually know what you're talking about. I cannot emphasize that enough. I think it's super important. And kind of leading on from the knowledge point is actually learning. As I said earlier, qualifying makes you realize that you really didn't know anything before. Now is the time when you will learn everything that you need to know. You'll learn your own way of working, you'll learn what you like about other people's way of working, kind of how to time manage and what the best sort of technique for getting things done is best for you. Obviously for me, I personally, like when I start on a morning, I like to write all my jobs down and put little ticky boxes next to them on my notepad, and then I work through what I need to do, so my drugs for like 8 AM or something like that, or 8 PM depending on if I'm on a night shift, and then I will gradually get my jobs done. Usually I like to get the main bulk of my jobs done before the doctors come round on a morning, because once they come round they want you to do a million other jobs. So once you've got your jobs out the way, then you can make room for theirs, and then once that's done, you can kind of be prepared for whatever's about to happen throughout the day, get your writing done, help anyone who needs any help. If someone's got a really sick, really busy patient, then you can go and help them. So obviously it's important to get all your jobs done first. Don't ever like leave your jobs as well. So I would highly just recommend that you learn your own way of working and what works best for you. As I said earlier, make a good impression. It's so important. As I said, it was actually first impressions I said before, but make a good impression on a daily basis. Don't get in anyone's bad books. It's just not worth it. You've got to go to work every single day or whatever shifts you do, and you've got to work with these people day in, day out. You do not want your life to be miserable, and you just want to you want to know that when you look around, people want to help you and not be like, oh God, and avoid you. So just make a good impression, like help people, do things by the book. Be friendly and approachable, speak to relatives in a nice way, be caring towards your patient, be friendly to each other, speak to doctors nice, just be in everyone's good books basically. The next tip is a little bit of a random one, but a good one. Buy a notepad. Seriously, I cannot emphasize this enough. My notepad is my life when I'm at work. As I said before, when I come on shift, I take my hand over, I write down anything important, so I might write it in red if it's really important, might write it in black if it's just like a job, and then I put a little ticky box next to it, and as the day goes on, I'll just tick these boxes, and gradually, as the day goes on, these boxes will gradually be crossed off my list, and I'll feel like I've accomplished something throughout the day. So just write down everything you need to know in this notebook. It doesn't have to be very big. Mine's like literally just pocket sized. It's super helpful if you need to make like notes of passwords or email addresses or just little jobs further down the line that you can kind of forget that day, or even shifts or anything. It's just helpful just to have a little notepad just for your pocket. So I would highly recommend just heading to like a Tesco. You can get them for like 40p. So yeah. Next one is probably one of the most key points you could possibly need to like get you through your nursing career, and that is just to be organised. You will not get anywhere if you are not an organised person. Other people don't like working with unorganised people because it kind of sets the team back a bit. If you're getting other people to do your jobs for you because you're not doing them quickly or efficiently enough, then people aren't going to like that. It's going to get people's backs up a bit. Plus for your own personal sort of thoughts, and like I was saying, I like to get things done so that I know when the doctors come around and give me a list of jobs this long, I know I've got time to do them, whereas I don't feel like swamped in my head like I've got so many jobs to do. So I'd just say organisation is absolutely key to being a nurse. Honestly, you need to be an organised person to actually get through the day. You need to know when your drugs are due, get them ready so that you've got them on the side. Make sure your trolleys and things are all stocked up so you've got plenty of stuff that you need at your bed space. Obviously, I'm kind of speaking in intensive care terms here, but on a ward and things, you need to have plenty of equipment that you need. So if you're taking your drugs around with you and doing your drugs around, make sure you've got like paracetamol and stuff on your trolley. So yeah, just be really organised. Like, have everything that you need on your person or nearby at least, and then honestly, it'll make life so much easier. I cannot emphasise that enough. Punctuality, again, a massive, massive, massive thing. No one likes someone who walks in late every single time of a shift. Like, it just makes things set back. It'll get your boss's backs up, and there's absolutely no excuse for being late really. If it's due to traffic and things like that, yeah, then yes, sometimes that can't be helped. But if you're making it sort of a regular occurrence, being late to work and just rocking in and running in with your hair all over the place and just being all like really unkempt and untidy, then people will be like, oh God. Basically, just get up 5 minutes earlier, set off 5 minutes earlier. Don't do an extra step in your morning. I don't know what you do. I don't know if you go to the gym and it's making you a bit longer, or if you are putting on loads of makeup, take a layer of makeup off, don't do a particular part of it and just set off a little bit earlier for work. Go to bed earlier on a night, have an alarm set, don't sleep through that snooze button, make sure that you're there on time. I think it's super important. Again, as I said earlier, ask questions. It's super important to ask if you don't know the answer to something. Don't go ahead and do a job if you don't know what you're doing. Ask someone to show you and then you can do it yourself and then you'll know. Quite dangerous if you're going to go ahead and do something that you don't have a clue what you're doing. It could be quite fatal at times, or it might just be something really simple, but at the same time it's just so easy to ask people, and people will recognise that as well. I think people recognise when people know their limitations, and it's definitely not a thing people like moan about. It's something that it makes people feel confident that you know to ask. I think especially senior nurses and things will be like, oh, I'm glad that you asked that. I'm glad that you had the confidence to ask. So yeah, I definitely just recommend to ask any questions of anything that you don't know the answer to. The next tip is roster. Now, if you're a student and just going into being qualifying, I don't think that you'll know what this word actually means, but basically roster is sort of like a system online, which is basically where everybody's shifts are documented for like your off duty and things like that. I think it's super important to get to grips with this. It is going to become a massive part of your life. Make sure you request shifts because it's important, and you don't want to get given every single weekend under the sun because that'll just get you back up and majorly annoyed. Make sure you are fair with what you request as well. Make sure you understand that you've got to do your fair share of nights, your fair share of weekends and things like that. And just get to grips with it because it's going to be a system that you're going to have to look at for a really long time and going to have to like repeatedly use. So just get to grips with it. If it's something different where you work and you've never heard of Roster Pro or Employee Online or anything like that, then just get to grips with what your shift system is. It's important to know. It's important to know where you can find your shifts and when you're on duty and things like that. I personally think it's a big part of my job is checking when I'm at work and stuff like that and requesting shifts and things. So I'm just putting that out there that if you've not actually come across it yet, just be aware that this is something that you're going to have like on your agenda very, very soon, and it will become quite a big part of your life. I'm telling you that now. Again, if you are newly qualified, then you are just starting a new job, then you are going to be that lucky person who gets their supernumerary period. If you don't know what this is, then basically when you start a new job, you usually get a period of time, so like a week, 2 weeks, a month, 6 weeks, whatever it is, depending on how like if you're newly qualified or have been qualified a while, you will get a period of time in which you get to effectively shadow other people in the workplace, work alongside them and things, and you don't necessarily have your own patients in that time. Basically, I would just say make the most of this period of time. Ask questions to the people that you're working with. Ask to work with different individuals because you will learn different ways of working, different ways of like other people sort of getting their jobs done and things. You'll just pick up different tips and tricks from different individuals, and you might also learn ways that you don't want to work. So I do think it's really important to like just make the most of your supernumerary period. Use it to like go to training and do bits and bobs on the computer, like any training purposes and things like that. Use it to like go and help other members of staff as well, sort of get your face shown, get your name known and things like that. I definitely just rhymed. I don't know why I'm a nurse. I should be a poet. I do think it's just super important to like make the most of that time, because once it's over, and then you're out there doing everything for yourself. So just make the most of it. Next one is a quite good one actually. Obviously, if you've been a student nurse going into being qualified again, you will never have experienced the delights of pay. Being a student is really, really hard. Living off a student loan is hard. Living off if you're doing bank work and it's got to go towards your rent. You're going to have no spare money just here and there just to like treat yourself with. So basically that is my point. Treat yourself with your first paycheck. It doesn't have to be a car. Well, it can't be, because you definitely won't be able to afford a car with your first paycheck. It doesn't have to be like an expensive handbag. It doesn't have to be anything big. Just buy yourself something that you weren't able to buy before, like a new top or a lipstick that you've been wanting, or a pair of slippers, or those shoes you've been eyeing up. Do you know what I mean? Just something that you couldn't get before. Something just to show like your hard work for the first month, just to celebrate your first paycheck basically. The 3 years of your training is super hard. You've got to learn to like live with pretty much no money and work just as long as other people work 36-hour weeks as a student nurse for no money whatsoever. So I just say make the most of that first paycheck. Go and spend it on whatever the hell you like. Again, just another point reiterated, I just think it's super important to understand what you are doing and why you're doing it. So basically understand why you're doing a certain procedure, why this person needs it, what their condition, what kind of condition they have that entails this kind of procedure being done. So for example, if I give you an example now, liver patients, for example. Liver patients get sort of like this ascites around their abdomen, so it's sort of like free fluid in the abdomen, which quite often has to be drained. Now, it's never the nurses that do this, but again, if you're working on a medical ward and things, or even on intensive care or a liver ward or anything like that, then you'll probably see this happening. Doctors usually come in and put what they like to call an ascitic tap into the abdomen, which effectively just drains and drains and drains this fluid that's sitting in the abdomen out. So again, it's just important to understand that if someone's got that problem, why would this treatment help it? It's just important to understand why certain things are being done because of certain things. That's all I'm trying to say. It's just important to understand why certain things are happening because of certain conditions. Next is quite an emotive point, but basically I just want you to be aware of how everything that you do now makes your patients and your relatives' experiences in hospital extremely valuable. So basically, when I say that, I mean everything that you say, everything that you do, everything, absolutely everything that you do for your patients is being not judged, but it's being taken on board by them, and it can really make a difference to how someone's sort of experiences in hospital. Obviously, if you're spending a lot of time with these people, you can get to know people as your patients, you can get to know your relatives and things, and you can make their experience so much more valuable. Honestly, everything that you do matters, everything that you say matters, and they take everything on board. So just bear that in mind with everything that you say and do for your patients. I think it's super important. I'm just basically meaning everything that you do as a nurse now contributes to their experiences within hospital. So whether it is end of life care, or whether it is getting someone better and just like being with them the whole time, I don't know, that sitting and having a chat with relatives, or having a chat with your patient, making time to do that is so important, like, and they will thank you for it. And it also creates a bit of a better relationship with your relatives and with your patients if you're actually just having like a generic chat, or even just like informing them of what's going on and things. Keeping your relatives informed, I think, is really important as well. So yeah, just really to round that up, just bear in mind that everything that you do is super valuable to their experience. You don't want people to go away feeling negative about their experiences of being in hospital and experiences of being cared for by yourself. The next point is something which, believe me, will begin to take over your life now you are qualified, and you probably know this anyway from being a student, but your writing and your documentation is something which is going to be like a major part of your nursing career now. You're going to have to write everything down. It's so important to like document everything that you do, everything that's important, all conversations that happen. Ensure that your writing's legible if it's handwritten. Luckily for us, it's kind of on a computer, so it's much easier. But just bear in mind that everything that you do now needs to be documented. Your observations need to be documented. Any incidents need to be documented. All the care that you provide, any treatments that happen, any sort of procedures that get done, just anything, everything needs to be documented. And you just need to bear in mind that what you're writing needs to be factual, no opinions, and it just needs to be like in date, and you need to sign it, and just, yeah, it's quite common sense really, but honestly, it's so important. You are responsible now for everything that you do. You're responsible for your own patients. You are responsible to speak to relatives, to speak to your patients, to care for them, to provide care, to give them a wash, to do your writing, to give them the medications, to you're responsible as an advocate for them, to like the doctors, to everybody really, to everyone sort of in the multidisciplinary team. You kind of at the centre point of talking to the physios about what they need, talking to the OT if they need anything at home, talking to the doctors if they need a medication, talking to everybody, social workers, anybody who is necessarily needed in this person's care. You are responsible for it, and I think it's super important to just get your head around it, because sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming, but it's part of what you need to do now, and it's part of a nurse's responsibilities. So yeah. Okay then, so just to round this video up, I really hope that these points have been helpful for you if you are a brand new qualified nurse. And by the way, if you are, congratulations on getting to this point, and I wish you all the luck in your new careers. Honestly, like I've said several times throughout this video, you will learn so much now. You'll learn more than you ever learned before, honestly. And it is a journey. You'll look back in a couple of years, like I currently am, and feel so amazing about how far you've come, all your experiences, all that positive feedback, and honestly, you just won't believe like you were ever frightened to start out this amazing career. So yeah, just to round this up, I really hope that you've enjoyed this and it's been helpful for you all out there. Even if you're not quite qualifying yet, if you're like going into your 3rd year of uni or even thinking of applying for nursing, I hope that this has been slightly helpful for what to expect. So if you've enjoyed this, please be sure to give it a massive thumbs up for me. It's always so helpful so that I know if you're liking these videos. If you'd like to see any more nursing related videos, leave them in the comments below and I will try and get some more sorted more regularly because this is something I'd be quite intrigued to do. And let me know if you'd like to see anything sort of intensive care specific and let me know what you'd like. So I really hope that you've enjoyed this. Please be sure to head over to all my social media channels and give them a follow as well, because I sometimes write things on my Twitter and stuff for all you nurse people out there as well, or people just wanting advice and things. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye! Mwah.